Welcome back, La. Welcome back, and we hope you're feeling refreshed to begin the next part on the first thematic session on cybersecurity and responsible digital engagement. And since the ceremonial part is now over, please feel to remove your kabnis and rachus as well, La. But before we begin the sessions, we'd like to share a few very important housekeeping announcements and to announce each of them one by one. The first one that we have is on the timekeeping, and this will be a very important reminder for the session speakers that we have for the 8 thematic sessions. And in these, each speaker will be allotted a total of 12 minutes to make your presentation. A first bell will sound at 10 minutes to signal that you have 2 minutes left to conclude, and a final bell will indicate the end of your time. We request all speakers to manage and pace your presentations accordingly. The second announcement that we have is on the health support. For anyone feeling unwell, there is a first aid support station available at the designated corner in the entrance foyer at the back, equipped with basic painkillers, face masks, and sanitary napkins. The third one we have is on the coffee stand. For anybody who needs a refreshment, there's also a coffee stand at the back of this entrance foyer as well. And then very importantly, on the washrooms, please note that the washrooms, there are 2 washrooms at the back of the conference hall, as well as in the building below this on my right. So feel free to use these areas. Then the other one that we have is on the zero tolerance policy, very important. This conference upholds a strict zero tolerance policy against workplace sexual exploitation, harassment, and abuse, and we respectfully remind all participants to maintain the highest standards of conduct, respect, and professionalism throughout. And the next one is on the journals. If anybody needs copies of the specially launched editions of the BJRD and then the Bhutan Insight journals, copies are available in the entrance foyer as well. And very importantly, you must have noticed this, that there are 10 outstanding poster presentations on display in the entrance foyer outside this conference hall. These posters were thoughtfully selected to showcase innovative work and to ensure a balanced program between oral and visual presentations. And we encourage all participants to visit the poster area, engage with the presenters, and explore their valuable contributions. As the poster is a significant and integral component of the conference, we hope you'll take time to appreciate the depth of research represented and the different modes of dissemination that has been made available through this conference. With these reminders and then the announcement over, we now begin session 1 on the theme Cybersecurity and Responsible Digital Engagement. In this session, we explore strategies to strengthen cybersecurity awareness and promote ethical and mindful engagement with digital technologies. It will highlight initiatives to build digital resilience through education, safeguard critical infrastructures such as Bhutan's hydropower sector, and encourage responsible technology use. Emphasizing the human dimension of digital transformation, the theme will call for inclusive, secure, and ethical practices that balances innovation with social responsibility and ensuring technology enhances trust, safety, and sustainable development. On the keynote for this session, we have Professor Uwe Dulek, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Business, Government and Law at the University of Canberra, and Adjunct Professor at the Queensland University of Technology. Professor is a recognized expert in behavioral sciences, economics, public policy evaluation, incentive theory, and expert services, and has led major Australia Research Council initiatives, advanced government through behavioral economics team of the Australian government, and convened influential Nujathons and winter schools. His research is widely cited internationally and has shaped policy documents in Australia and beyond. We would also like to inform that Professor Dulek will have very short time with us as he has a flight to catch after this, in this very session. So therefore, he may leave the session at some point. And for this session, we would like to thank him in advance for his valuable contribution. And therefore, the question and answer session in this will be led by Pratima Pradhan from the GovTech agency. So let's welcome Professor Dulek on stage for his keynote address on importance of social impact for the social license of universities. Professor.
Thank you and good morning. I would like to acknowledge the Vice Chancellor and the Ambassador, distinguished guests. This is a hard gig, I have to say, after you were informed that really important topics come up next. So I have to tell you a little bit of a story. When the Ambassador invited me to talk at this conference, I was talking to him about the discussions we are having at the University of Canberra about strategy for the university. And he actually asked me, can you talk about your thoughts on the strategy for a business school or universities, how they deliver their teaching and research? And I first said, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I'm an economist, you know. I usually do mathematical models, show lots of data, but I thought I honor the request. And it came at a time where actually editors from a journal, a business journal, asked me, could I say something about strategies for business school? So I share my thoughts on that, and I hope it's interesting and helpful. And I maybe a little bit touch upon where topics like cybersecurity or inclusion, I saw that, and maybe G&H even are important, and how we put this into context. So this is joint work with my boss, actually. You may have heard the Honourable Bill Shorten was appointed, former government minister, as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Canberra, and he actually has a strong focus on providing a different strategy for the university, being more inclusive, for example. So let's get started. Very quick overview. I try to give you a bit of maybe a reason how we got into this situation. I think a little bit what it could mean for a university. I think it applies to the role of government for institutions here, and we heard a little bit about that in the morning, but also in Australia. I will then draw on some theoretical or conceptual work from business research, a balanced scorecards approach, to give you a conceptual thought about how can we think about social impact of the work we do and social license. And then I draw on my behavioral economic experience and actually try to think about how can we do that more or less in an implementation way, how can we implement that work and start thinking about that. And at the end, I hope you indulge me and allow me to make a couple of conclusions or thoughts from the work that we do in Australia with the Royal Institute of Management, maybe how to translate this into the context of Bhutan. And it's, as a researcher, these are just hypotheses, but I thought for this type of conference where we talk about research collaboration, may be interesting to share those thoughts. So very quickly, I think most of you know the university sector in many countries in the world is under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of change. And you really see that in many ways that I think compared to the focus that the Bhutanese government has on education, we have seen in many Western countries that governments reduced the financial support for universities. So the investment has been reduced. There's a lot of topics that come up. Misconduct is much more considered, wage theft, executive salaries, a lot of documentation where the public opinion on how universities perform and what their role in society is has changed, right? For a long time ago, like this type of misbehaviors have been there with all human endeavors, but now they get much more attention, right? And our Vice Chancellor, for example, says universities should have learned when, for example, the pressures under COVID arrived, that there was so little support for universities. Universities were accepted to get wage support in Australia. Our Vice Chancellor says this should have been an alarm bell for universities because it shows that the public opinion is not with them. Otherwise, politicians wouldn't have done that, right? So it's important to actually think about, and I don't think this is a problem for Bhutan, it's one for very relevant in Australia, that we need to think about our social license to operate. I talk about strategy processes because that's where we actually started. And what we see there is that as a small university, we actually are much more dependent on revenue, particularly from international students. If you look at most Australian universities, there's a very large share of student fee income that comes from international relations, and I do feel we have lost, because of this reason of this focus on international students, a lot of connection to the local community, whether it's business as another source of income or the community in general. And we had for a long time a problem that, particularly if you are not in the GO8s, that there's a problem that you have a highly standardized product. So all business schools more or less do the same, which was a good strategy for a long time because we very much served our own regions, but it has changed now. Education has moved online, so students can study at many different places in their town or elsewhere. And what does that mean for the work that we do as a university? So here is a very simple approach to look at that. Those of you that come with a business background, there's in the management literature a theory of it's called the balanced scorecard. So if you want to think about a strategy for a place, you can think about what are the really important parts that you need to look at. Right? As a business, it may be financial viability, but it shouldn't be only financial viability. If you think about G&H and the more holistic approach that particularly Bhutan takes, we should actually think about financial viability, we should think about well-being, we should think about other elements, sustainability, right? What are the important elements for strategy in a university that wants to care about social impact, right? So for us, you can actually really think about, we should think about our research and teaching content and say what's important there. So to what extent is our research and teaching, the academic endeavors, so to say, relevant for social well-being, so that we serve our society if we want to talk about social license. I find it important that we should think about, as education institutions, about whom we teach and what are the implications there. That may be very different again. If you think about the top universities, you can say, well, we only care about the smartest people, and that's all that we teach. And for a long time in Western universities, that was how we thought about university education. We now actually see that society expects us to do more, right? We need more diversity in our classrooms, and I think as an economist I actually think this will be very good for innovation as well. So it's not just that it's our job to be more inclusive, but we need more and different ideas, right? And whatever field of study we are, if we just talk among ourselves, among the people in the ivory tower, we just limit us to ideas where we may miss out, right? A lot of engagement with First Nations people now. You hear researchers saying we can actually engage with different types of knowledge, and it makes us richer in the outcomes that we get, and we can contribute more. The last point is one that I find particularly important in a place like Thimphu or Canberra. I think universities have a role to play to engage in public debates. And we have sometimes lost some of that, particularly in Australia. I think it's very few academics that engage with public debates because we had this very strong focus, I would say almost on international students, right, and purely student income. So there's another role to play. This is a little bit the scorecard that we apply in our strategy and the discussions that we have there. Here are a couple of examples. So this is not direct implication, but if we start to talk about this research, education, and engagement activities that we have as a university, the academic portfolio, right, you can start to think about we can work more with social enterprise. We can support community organizations, and I hear a lot about, I think, what the role of universities in Bhutan are to actually engage more with that. So it's a little bit for a business school, particularly moving away from maybe being a business school that works with Kellogg or Coca-Cola or Nike, to actually say, what does it mean to apply business knowledge for community organizations, for government, and for social enterprise. We can do work into how can we reduce inequality, and if I look at G&H, there's a big element of really bringing people along, being inclusive, right? Reducing inequality. And that could be more prominent. We see a lot of that in many business schools, that there is this importance to take these topics into account. We can start to think more about better policies. So how can we translate our work, whatever the discipline, I talk here about business schools, not only thinking about what's the implications for business or for the type of industry, whatever your field of study is, but what does it mean in a policy context? I sometimes talk to colleagues and say, look, if you are in a capital city, you could actually start thinking about, if you study chemistry, for example, that there's a need for this type of specialist knowledge that we develop at universities to inform policy. How do we allow this exchange? I think this conference is a very good example for that. So let's think about how can we go about it. And what I will show you now, I have to press here as well. What I will show you now is the work that I've usually done when I looked at behavioral economics. And a lot of behavioral economics projects actually work with a four-step process where you try to first work and use your disciplines. My background is economics, particular to identify problems. Then you use insights, particularly behavioral insights, but it could be technical insights. I've worked a lot with engineers, for example, that bring subject expertise to design interventions. And then you work on evaluation. You want to learn what works. People are weird animals. They don't always behave the way that we expect them to behave. And then you want to think about how can you achieve that. So that's a framework that I use here to actually think about what does that mean if we want to think about work that we do at universities with respect to our research, teaching, and content. So here we go. First step, to identify what's the problem, right? That's why I talk about strategy, what's the mission, what's the vision for an institution. And there are many universities in Bhutan, many colleges. To what extent is it clear what the focus is there? I see in Australia a lot of universities that do very similar things, right? Again, diversity could actually help us to work better with each other, but also complement each other. I think the conference is another great opportunity to actually find do we find complementarities between Australian institutions and Bhutanese institutions? Where can we learn from each other, but also grow with each other? And you can really say, to what extent do we want to engage with social impact? Where is the social impact that an institution wants to make? We don't need to do everything, but we should actually specialize. That's what we have learned over many years about human evolution, that specialization is actually a great opportunity, and how do we combine that? And then we can talk further about what are the students that we try to engage, to attract. I heard just talk to colleagues about having done research on how to include people with disability, right? How can we again see this as an opportunity to work together? And you can think about where's your sector of social impact that you want to have. Is it more in the environment? Is it more on disability, gender? Lots of topics there, right? And really think about those specializations. And for those in research, we can think about the focus on our methods. A couple of ideas. How can we get there? Again, this is a framework formed by behavioral economics. I've tried to draw on that. We can start to think about how do we make the research and engagement activities easy for colleagues, right? As an institution, we set up ways to engage with certain problems. Is there access to data, to challenges that we can look at? We can make it attractive, right? We do have promotion criteria. We have KPIs that we can set for ourselves. What are our priorities? And really align them and try to move there. We can think about norms and what role they play, and we can think about getting the timing right. Again, very simple ideas, and I rush a little bit through them, but it's really the attempt to translate these insights from behavioral economics into that one. And then, last two steps, the economist gets happier because about data we can actually start to evaluate, right? We can set KPIs and try to report on those to see how we're tracking along, provide transparency there, and then we can continue and actually document those to communicate, create maybe communities of practice, work with the university to have a joint strategy that reinforces each other. So, in the article that we are currently writing, there's even a checklist. I heard the bell already, so I will not go through the checklist, I will just repeat what I said before. But the last thing that I may share, this is actually the type of vision, mission that we arrived at for the faculty, consulting with our community and our colleagues. And it's a particularly strong focus, again, I think, reinforcing what we learn in the conference, or what we have heard this morning in the conference, that actually business, governments, laws, the universities play a role to achieve these outcomes for society, right? And it's really important to do that, particularly if you're in a capital city. The University of Canberra is in a capital city, and so therefore we go by that. Very quick, I hope you give me 2 minutes. So this is results from that. I only brought one copy, so I will leave it with the Vice Chancellor, and you have to see him if you're curious to get a copy. Maybe if you ask too often, then it will end up in the library, and that may be a good solution. And finally, I know that I'm over time. Here are my thoughts about what can we say about Bhutan. I think actually the focus on G&H and the philosophy behind it already helps that your research and teaching is much more aligned with social impact than it is in many Western universities. I could imagine, and I may be wrong there, I have only superficial knowledge, that I think it would be interesting to think as well about what our Vice Chancellor says, to try to attract new populations to go to university. How do we get adult learners to return? I may be wrong. It's just something that I see when I talk to colleagues. I don't want to make any assumption here, but it's interesting. I find it really interesting to think broader about what are populations we can bring in. And when I hear the discussions about the GMC, the mindfulness city, I think universities can play a big role to create innovation ecosystems. And that may be an opportunity that I feel that is there as well. Again, I just put out hypotheses there. I'm just a researcher. But I wanted to add those thoughts. And apologies, I went 2 minutes over, but I'm still in the 15 minutes mark, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dulak, for your very enriching presentation highlighting the role of the universities to move beyond its role from teaching and learning to align with community needs to ensure long-term relevance and credibility. And we'll also like to submit that we have allotted a little extra time to Professor Dulak because we have in this session only 3 out of the 4 speakers, because one of the speakers, Mr. Madhura T. Pathirana, has decided to forego this due to his official commitments. And for this reason, we thought we could spare a little extra time to our speakers and also to have an extended question and answer session if this is required. To move on to the first session speaker after the keynote in this theme, we have Tashi Yangchen from Jimmy Namgyal Engineering College, Royal University of Bhutan. Tashi is an assistant lecturer in the Department of Information Technology and holds a bachelor's degree in computer science from Chitkara University, India. Her academic and research interests include web development, database systems, open source software, and cybersecurity education. Passionate about student-centered learning, she contributes to curriculum design, project supervision, and academic initiatives. Tashi also organizes hackathons, mentors students, and develops digital literacy resources. Tashi will speak on strengthening digital defenses, evaluating the impact of cybersecurity awareness workshop among first-year engineering students in Bhutan. Let's welcome Tashi Yangchen on stage, please.
Kuzangpo, and a very warm good morning to everyone. Respected Vice Chancellor of RUB, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Since I have the absolute honor of being the first speaker for this conference, I would like to start by sharing with you a small story about a belief that I have back at home. So during Buddhist New Year's Day, it is believed that the person who serves you the first cup of thup or porridge and the first cup of tea actually sets the tone of the rest of your year. And if the person who's serving you the tea or the cup has a name Tashi, then it is actually considered especially auspicious because Tashi actually means good fortune. So with this, I really hope that we'll have a very auspicious session ahead. And with this, my name is Tashiang Chen, and I am currently working at Jiminamigal Engineering College under Royal University of Bhutan. And I'm here to present to you our study on strengthening digital defenses, evaluating the impact of cybersecurity awareness workshop among first-year engineering students in Bhutan. So, as researchers have shown, and as it's evident to everyone who's here, Bhutan is moving really fast into its digital era. And we also know that there is a very uncomfortable truth to this, which is with the growing exposure to digitalization, there is also a growing exposure to threat. And among all users, it is found that the youth, the college students, are the most active users online, and they are also the most vulnerable demographic when it comes to digital safety. One of the papers done in one of the studies done in Silicon Valley also suggested that even the students in a very technologically advanced areas such as Silicon Valley also has its use with very minimal cybersecurity awareness, and they have very low awareness and idea on how to keep themselves safe online. So this gap between digital usage and digital safety is where our motivation for our study starts. So this is our methodology. So backed up by several research papers and studies, we have adopted a quasi-experimental research design with a workshop as an intervention. In this methodology, we first had our participants from the 3 technical colleges of Bhutan. My bad. I'm quite nervous, actually. All right. So to continue, so in this methodology, we had a total of 324 participants from the 3 technical colleges in Bhutan, namely Jiminamigal Engineering College, JENIC, CST, College of Science and Technology, GCIT, Galposhing College of Information Technology. And we started off with our participants taking a pre-workshop survey. So this workshop was meant to measure their baseline awareness about cybersecurity. This allowed us to then deliver a structured workshop tailored for the students, and later on, after the workshop, we again had our participants take another survey, now a post-workshop survey. This allowed us to make a very clear and direct comparison in change in our participants' knowledge and perspective, and also their confidence when it comes to digital safety. So this is a detailed diagram that represents a detailed process of our study. Now let's see what we included in our workshop. So our workshop mainly covered these important topics related to cybersecurity. So first one is cyber threats. So this included social engineering and scams, and the scams we also had phishing scams, and then we also introduced and we also taught our participants the guidelines and the tips to create strong passwords to secure their devices and their accounts. And then we also taught our participants the importance of updating their software regularly, instead of just ignoring it with the excuse saying that it takes time, it eats up our data, and it takes lots of space, right? And then we also included other digital ethics, such as cyberbullying, and these were all backed up by real-life case studies. Now let's get into the statistics. So before the workshop, as you can see, we had 72.1% of our participants who had little or no cybersecurity training before we delivered the workshop. And only 28% of them recognized the common cybersecurity threats, such as social engineering, phishing scams, and malware attacks. And 24% of them understood the importance of strong passwords. We do come across creating a strong password regularly, but they had no clear understanding of how one should go about creating strong passwords. And only 19% of them practiced safe browsing or updated their software regularly. And 7% of them lacked confidence in handling online risks. So these were the pre-workshop findings. So what changed after we delivered the structured workshop intervention? So you can see that 72.1% had, 81.4% found the workshop effective or very effective, and 76.9% of them were left feeling confident about applying cybersecurity practices after the workshop. And threat awareness, such as social engineering threats and malware threats, improved from 20% to a whopping 79%. And their knowledge about creating strong passwords rose from 24% to 83%, which is huge. And next, safe browsing awareness increased from 19 to 74%. Now, this clearly shows that though a short but a well-structured workshop has a very strong impact on creating change like this. Okay, here are some of the qualitative insights and feedbacks that we collected from our participants. 85.24% of them appreciated our workshop being very interactive and practical approach. So our workshop was not just all theory. So we had practical activities and interactive activities such as group discussions. We also had real-life case studies. We have scenario-based learning, and we also had multimedia demonstrations. So they really found it effective. And some of the common concerns they could identify and understand after our workshop was identity theft, data breaches, and cyberbullying. 59% of the participants also urged the institutions to improve campus cybersecurity support. And they also suggested including videos and more multimedia resources in the upcoming workshops. And they also request, though we had plenty of real-life cases, not just the local Bhutanese cases, but also international cases presented to them. They found it really interesting and very convincing that they requested for more real-life cases in the future workshops. And 62% of them recommended expanding workshops to high school, and this clearly reflects that our participants, first-year students, understood the importance of early cybersecurity education. So, what are the key takeaways from our study? We did have a lot of key takeaways, but these are the two most important ones that I've reflected here. So first one is, workshops, though short, but if well structured as an intervention, can significantly improve student cybersecurity knowledge. And a well-designed, interactive, and context-sensitive workshops can create lasting educational impact on the students. And our recommendations? First one, a cybersecurity workshop anything related to cybersecurity should not be just a side activity. It should be made a regular part of academics. We also recommend that there should be a continuous cybersecurity capacity building for faculty members and IT staff, because cybersecurity is an ever-changing subject. We have new threats, new hackers every day, and we need to be up to date with them. So there is a requirement for continuous capacity building. And this also calls for conducting regular awareness workshops in schools and institutions. So this is all I have regarding our main study, but we did not stop here. Our endeavor in spreading cybersecurity awareness didn't stop with this. So what we did is we further went on, and then we applied for a funding from ABRC Foundation, and we were fortunate enough to secure a funding for a project that went on for a year, and it's titled Enhancing Digital Literacy and Cybersecurity Awareness in Eastern Bhutan. So we embarked on this project in collaboration with GovTech agency. So in this project, we aimed to cover around 1,000 participants from the 6 districts at the eastern part of the country. But we actually overdid ourselves, and we are very proud to let you know that we actually made more than 3,000 participants digitally aware and confident in navigating in the cyberspace. And I think this is a wonderful and perfect opportunity for me to thank ABRC Foundation on behalf of my team for backing us up with fund, and also GovTech agency for helping us create more digitally aware citizens. With this, I would like to close my presentation with this thought. We have firewalls. Firewalls protects our systems, but it is awareness that protects our people. And when we protect our people, we protect our institutions, we protect our economy, and we protect our future. With this, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have rest of the conference filled with auspiciousness. Thank you.
Thank you, Tashi, for sharing your research survey on impact of cybersecurity awareness and its findings. Following Tashi, our next speaker is Professor Alistair McEwan from the University of Sydney in Australia. Professor Alistair is a Cerebral Palsy Chair of Technology and Engineering at the University of Sydney and a global leader in biomedical engineering. With over 190 peer-reviewed publications and multiple patents, Professor's research focuses on low-cost, non-invasive physiological monitoring technologies and their clinical translation. Professor Alistair also has extensive experience in medical device development, commercialization and regulatory strategy, and co-led the Australian Research Council Training Centre for Innovative Bioengineering. Being passionate about inclusive design, he champions assistive technology that enhances workplace productivity and accessibility, aligning with national priorities in disability and aged care. Let's welcome Professor Alistair to speak on mindful innovation of assistive technology. Professor?
Thank you. Kuzo Zangpola La. It's a great pleasure to be speaking here. I only arrived yesterday in Bhutan. It's my first time here. It's absolutely amazing and wonderful. Much more than I could possibly imagine. So I'd like to start by making the point that everybody here, every person has different abilities. I have different abilities. I don't play cricket for Australia. I don't play football for Arsenal. Sometimes I trip when I'm walking up the stairs. and I think about cerebral palsy. I'm here with some funding from the Cerebral Palsy Alliance in Australia. Cerebral palsy is the most common physical disability that starts in childhood. It's like a child, a baby, just before they're born or during birth or just after birth, having a stroke. So if you know when people have a stroke, they may end up needing to use a walking stick, a cane. They may need to use a wheelchair. They may not be able to speak or use their hands. And so when I trip up the stairs, sometimes I think, oh, maybe that's a little bit of my spectrum of physical ability. And we all have a different spectrum of physical abilities and mental abilities. And I think listening to the talk so far, the mention of the word inclusion, this is where we can get a real richness of different learnings and how to learn from each other. So that's what I'd like to talk about with the mindful innovation. Technology is working. So what is assistive technology? All of these things here, you're probably very familiar with some of the assistive technologies for mobility that I talked about. Things like walking frames, supports for upper limbs, for lower limbs, wheelchairs, even incontinence products, spectacles. So maybe 50% of the people in the room are wearing assistive technology right now. It's a very wide area. But there are some other technologies that we don't really see as assistive technologies all the time around communication and cognition. So our mobile phones are used by lots of people with disabilities for communication. And these devices were actually first made for disability. So there's a concept of inclusive innovation where people have made technology for disability first. If we think of Alexander Graham Bell, created the telephone to speak to people who are hard of hearing. The keyboard that we all use to type was made in Italy by someone who was writing love letters and poems to someone with a disability. And technologies like speech to text, when you listen to instead of reading, and when you use technologies like Siri or Alexa that are becoming more and more available, those sort of technologies as well. But they also lock some people out, so we need to be really careful about how we design those technologies. And I've been learning a little bit about Bhutan so far, and I think there are some technologies here that are also could be seen in this way. So, for example, a walking stick, which may help people walk upstairs to a temple, may help some of us walk up to the tiger's nest as well, the walking sticks. Things like the yak wool protection around knees and joints to help keep them warm and help keep the blood flowing well there. And even some of the carrying aids. The doko. So the doko baskets that people use to distribute weight can be used by people who are maybe their balance or some of their strength is not in the right place, including children with cerebral palsy who have poor trunk control. So I'm really excited to learn about that here and bring that back to Australia. Even the dress, so the go or the kira, it's a beautiful dress to see, and I think it's more inclusive of some disabilities. It's easier to put on. I have heard some parts of it's difficult, but it's more comfortable, more easy to wear, maybe easy to walk upstairs and things like that. But obviously, more easier than tying up buttons on a shirt like this. But also, there are some, it would be difficult for some other people. So the message there is, these sort of things are very personalised. So when people think about assistive technology, they don't usually think about that's a great business idea, there's a great business case, we're going to make a lot of money. But the market is huge. The market for assistive technology is as big as the market for coffee in the world. It's a huge market, and it's growing really fast. With the ageing population and the inclusion of more people with disability in society and in the workplace, this market is really growing. So there's a large global organisation called AT Scale that measures these things and tries to bring assistive technology into lots of countries around the world, and we work very closely with them. The return that they measure is a return on investment of 3 to 1. So for each dollar invested in assistive technology, $3 are coming back. But then there's also the inclusion of that person in society, in education, in the workplace, and it also lets the family around them and their carers, it gives them, it makes their life better as well. So what I'm presenting here, what we were looking at doing was trying to see how we could use the framework of G&H to measure these societal benefits and well-being benefits of assistive technology. The existing evaluations of assistive technology are very economics-based. They measure outcomes such as improvement of quality of life in adjusted life years, and Western ways of doing this are always bringing it back to a dollar figure. But that doesn't capture the whole story. So I think we can learn from G&H in how we measure these things. So that's our research objective. This project is really just starting, and what we're trying to do here is to link or to map the G&H to assistive technology for people with different abilities, and this might lead to a better outcome and better evidence to present to governments for assistive technologies. In Australia we have the NDIS, and we just heard from the University of Canberra, where Bill Shorten is the Vice-Chancellor. He introduced and is a big defender of the NDIS in Australia. It's a $50 billion Australian government budget item. So that gives you some idea about how important it is for Australia to support people with different abilities. So the framework that we used is to take the G&H and the 9 domains and look across those, rather than looking at and compare that to the way that assistive technologies have been measured in Western research. So integrating assistive technology into the G&H allows assessments of its broader impacts on life satisfaction, emotional balance, and community vitality. So when we were identifying the research gaps in this area, we saw that assistive technology has been used to show increases in psychological well-being and in reducing long-term disability, but the cultural and spiritual indicators were definitely underexplored, and that's an area we think G&H could really help us. So this might be where we see the value in adapting G&H for assistive technology evaluation, and to situate assistive technologies within Bhutan's holistic vision of human development. It's very interesting to hear about the mindfulness city, and a hypothesis I guess I could put out there is the looking at building a new city with the focus on inclusion and making it easy for people with different abilities for their mobility, their communication and their cognition. And that would align with a lot of the upcoming global standards in including people. And including all of us when we get older as well. We will all be disabled one day if we're lucky to live that long. So we looked across the 9 domains of the G&H, looking at each of the indicators and the different ways that they're measured. We did have some challenges in finding the detail in how they're scored, and that's where there's a great limitation in this work, and we're really looking for people here to work with to understand that better and help develop that data and that framework. We did find these, the examples on the right, highly relevant to assistive technology. And there's evidence also that I mentioned in psychological and lifelong disability from TEBIT in 2016, which supports that. But some other indicators around spirituality, ecological responsibility and housing quality, there was no evidence in the literature at the moment, so we definitely need to find people to work with to build that evidence. And it really requires developing that in the context of Bhutan. We need to work with everybody here who are stakeholders in this area, including people with different abilities. And as I said before, some of those people with different abilities may not have the ability to communicate well or very quickly, and that can limit how they're included in this conversation. So it's co-design, but it's a very special sort of co-design, working with people with different abilities. In my lab at Sydney University, we have people with different abilities who are students and researchers, and it really changes the dynamic of the research and education environment. I'm an engineer, and in engineering we don't do a lot of work on empathy, but when we have people with different abilities in the engineering classes and research, everybody learns about empathy, and the dynamic is very different. There's a lot of learning from each other. So just to come to the conclusion in interpreting the results, integrating assistive technology into G&H would shift the focus for assistive technology from the medical efficiency to collective well-being, but the challenges are limited specific data and the detail of how those measures are actually scored, and the need to be adapting the tools culturally for this context. There's some policy implications here. We can use this work to prioritise where there might be assistive technology and inclusion contributions and resources. And the way to do this would be to do the research with the co-design of people with different abilities. Lastly, the future research directions. These are some of the ones that we propose. Creating longitudinal studies, looking at the indirect effects on employment and the intergenerational benefits, and overall reframing assistive technology evaluation through the learnings from the G&H. So thank you again, and I'd love to spend some time talking to people here if you're interested in continuing this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your insightful presentation on assistive technology and for highlighting how innovative assistive technologies can contribute to meaningful social impact. As we discuss on disability and assistive technology, we would also like to submit that this conference venue is equipped with accessible entrances and ramps, and that the university is consistently working towards ensuring an inclusive and comfortable experience for everyone. And if there's anyone who will require any additional support, please do not hesitate to ask any of the organizing committee members. And to move on to the final speaker in this session, we invite Assistant Professor Shrikant Nethagani from the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at Jigme Namgyal Engineering College, Royal University of Bhutan. Professor Nethagani has more than 18 years of academic experience since 2006 and specializes in teaching power systems, renewable energy, electrical machines, and digital control systems. His research interests focus on power system optimization and sustainable energy solutions. And recently, his work on optimum solution for solar power generation earned the Best Paper Award at NIT Silchar, India, reflecting his commitment to innovation and applied research. Let's welcome Professor to speak on digital transformation meets cyber threats, strengthening Bhutan's hydropower security framework. Professor Nethagani, please.
Thank you. Kuzuzapola. Wow, thank you for nice introduction, especially in front of His Excellency, Ambassador of Bhutan to Australia, Honorable Vice Chancellors, Honorable Minister of Councillors, High Commission, dignitaries, scholars, and online viewers. It's my honor and privilege to be here today in front of you all in a prestigious global platform at the 3rd Australia-Bhutan Research Conference 2025. Bhutan's hydropower is not just the backbone of the country. So most of us as a power engineers, we believe that it is considered as one of the lifelines for the country's development. So during this transformation, as well as while we foster towards the development of a nation, the modernization and optimizations, it will also open new doors, few of the times, like which may lead to cyber threats. So this is the area where we have focused a lot on. Thank you very much. So let's explore now how these two aspects like digital innovation and cyber security must go hand in hand to safeguard sovereignty and security. I am Shrikant Nethagani, Assistant Professor at Jigme Namgyal Engineering College, has been carried out this work along with my former student, Lenduk Tingle Dochi. So to just brief out with, so actually I have started up giving this presentation over here, but this is his actual work. I am as a guide and he is one of my students. He is working at DGPC as power engineer. So this is actually his research work. While I was talking to him, Lenduk Tinle Doji, I have applied for the conference. Even our paper has started receiving the emails, our paper is selected. Then he said, sir, I am interested to present, but I am not sure. So even today morning, I was asking him, today morning we have the presentation and it is an inauguration session, are you be available? Then even then he said like, sir, I am very much interested to present, but I am quite unsure. So one thing what he used to say every time is that I am really interested to do the presentation. So let me welcome Lenduk Tinle Doji. So I seek permission to encourage his interest to continue with the presentation.
Good morning to you all, highly respected guests, honorable ambassador, and all of my dear friends out here. So, thank you, Professor. And as he already introduced, so my name is Lindupchen Lidoji, and today I will be filling in for my team, and my other core team member is Mr. Chinchi Doji, but he also couldn't make it due to his professional obligations. Before I begin, I would also like to state that I'm not presenting this in the capacity as an engineer currently employed in DGPC, but rather as a student from Jiminamili Engineering College, as most of these works were done back during our college days. So regarding today's presentation, so our topic is about digital transformation meets cyber threats, strengthening Bhutanese hydropower cybersecurity frameworks. And so if I go over with a brief introduction, we all already know that Bhutan's economy currently heavily relies on the hydropower sector. And over the years, we have seen rapid digital transformation with the introduction of automation, IoT, and artificial intelligence in the hydropower sector. But however, our team realized that though digitalization brings many benefits, it can also bring cybersecurity vulnerabilities to our critical infrastructure. And so some of our research objectives were to analyze the cybersecurity challenges in the hydropower digital systems, and to identify the vulnerabilities in the popular SCADA systems and control systems, and also to propose an enhanced cybersecurity framework for Bhutan's hydropower, while addressing the current limitations of the current cybersecurity frameworks used in hydropower, such as IEC 62443 and NIST SP 853. So the significance of the study is that it ensures reliability, sustainability, and security of our energy assets, and it also supports Bhutan's clean energy export goals. And so our team had carried out an extensive literature review, but the two main key takeaways are that number one, digitalization of hydropower systems has improved efficiency and real-time monitoring, but has also increased exposure to various cyber threats. And number two, that there is a need for strong cybersecurity frameworks, as it is critical if you want to protect our day-to-day hydropower operations, our data, and our national energy security. So some of the frameworks we've worked on are like we've explored the increasing global focus on cyber resilience in energy systems. We've explored various smart grid and SCADA architectures that are currently being used. And we've also studied the frameworks like NIST, ISO 27701, and IEC 62443 industrial guidelines. And so some of the research gaps, we saw that number one, the existing frameworks don't fully address hydropower specific vulnerabilities. Number two, there are limited resources and awareness in small or medium hydropower plants across Bhutan. And there is, number three, lack of specific risk assessment methodologies for smaller plants. And number four, there is also a need for improvement in our workforce training. So in our methodology, firstly, we did a comprehensive literature review, and we studied various case studies. And in the second phase, we worked on a framework, and we compared it with the existing standards, and we proposed an enhanced data-driven cybersecurity model. So if I were to share some of our results or findings, so we can see that broadly in hydropower sector, we can classify various types of cyber attacks into these 6 areas. And so level 0 indicates like the highest level of sophistication and attacks. So starting from level 5, we have the enterprise zone. So basically these are intrusions into the personal computers of the employees that are working in the hydropower sector. So if all of those personal computers, they get intruded into, then we could see certain hampering of our hydropower operations. And in level 4, we have the web services that we use, and also the historical browsing data. The terminal services and application servers and security servers are commonly used by and large in the energy industry. And between level 3 and 4, there is actually a firewall. So once, if we cross that firewall, or if we cross that firewall, then we enter into what is known as a DMZ, or demilitarized zone. So beyond this, if the intruders get into level 3, then we can see that the intruders can take control of our production processes, our optimization processes, and they could actually also hamper our historical data collections in the engineering workstations. And if we go into a higher level of sophistication, that is level 0 or level 2, we can see that they're basically hampering our control zone. So they just hamper just 1 or 2 control signals that are occurring in the hydropower operations. And with the help of hampering those just 1 or 2 critical control signals, they hamper the entire process, and it is extremely difficult to detect as well. And so our team also carried out various case studies. And from these case studies, we can see that yes, there have been cyber intrusions into similar infrastructure that is employed in our hydropower sector. And we can see that over the years, from all of these cyber attacks, 45% of the attacks demonstrate that yes, there is capabilities of cyber warfare, and 35% have actually resulted in espionage or data theft, while 25% were actually had political motives or economic motives. And so over the course of our study, one of my team members also observed that there was no proper way to quantify or assess how deep or how to actually measure these the sophistication level of these attacks. And so this is one of the equations developed by my colleague Tencho, who couldn't make it today. So basically it calculates the probability of how successful an attack could be in disrupting the hydropower plants using various probabilistic models, which my friend Tencho developed. And then, so from all of this, after doing all of this, we decided to make some recommendations on the existing traditional standards. And firstly, we can see that currently in the traditional standards, the only focus is on general IT security, basic IT security principles, and also basic industrial automation control system security principles. But our group noticed that currently we are seeing new kind of smart technologies that are being adopted in the energy sector. And so we also need to include various kinds of attack path visualizations and also quantitative metrics to assess how sophisticated these attacks can be or how they have occurred. And also we can see that the traditional standards already do provide vulnerability assessment, but they do not fully cover the all new kinds of possible attack paths that are currently being provided by the new technologies that we are seeing today. And we can also see that in terms of risk quantification, it is extremely limited in the traditional standards, whereas with the equation I have shown earlier, we use various security metrics to quantify these cyber risks in our new framework. And we can see that traditional standards do encourage the development of defense strategies, but our framework mandates that we have a different assessment of different strategies, and also mandates that we do simulations of these attacks. And if I talk about the strengths of traditional standards, we can see that it is already very well established, and they already provide a strong foundation. However, the weakness lies in the fact that we are seeing new kind of technology, smart technologies that are being adopted in the energy sector, and we realize that they may not be enough. And so the strength of our cyber-physical framework is that it addresses unique challenges through various data-driven approaches. And the weakness is that it is still at its infancy. It requires a lot of further works and development and possibly implementation in the future. So the key takeaway is that traditional standards are insufficient for the evolving cybersecurity needs of modern digital hydropower systems. and our framework offers comprehensive protection through continuous monitoring, quantitative risk analysis, and adaptive defense. And so we can see that there is increasing automation and remote access that also makes Bhutan's hydropower plants more exposed, though it provides a lot of benefits as well. And so we can also see on the national level policy, current cybersecurity measures, they only focus on the information technology part, like the web services and all, but not necessarily on the cyber physical systems that we have in hydropower. So a lot of both digital and electromechanical systems together, they work and they form what is known as operational technology. So we also need to focus on those cyber physical systems being used in industries and energy sector. So our current suggestion or proposal is that even the traditional frameworks, we do not feel it is being sufficiently followed. So if we could integrate those traditional frameworks such as IEC 62443 and NIST SP 853 and smart grid specific defenses into our energy sector. And number two, we could also, if we could also include attack path visualization, risk quantification, and continuous security monitoring. And so by doing this, we could enhance the resilience of Bhutan's critical infrastructure. We would also support regulatory oversight and training for our hydropower personnel. While for the research community at large, this work could help in advancement of cyber physical security research, as this framework can serve as a basis for cross-domain cybersecurity modeling. So I'd like to conclude that cybersecurity is essential for sustainable hydropower operations, and we need to enhance the cyber physical framework in order to strengthen our resilience and our energy security. So in this work, we have introduced enhanced cyber physical framework. We have compared it with traditional and modern standards. And with this, we have not only been able to bridge the transformation, digital transformation in the energy sector, but we have also introduced cyber resilience. And all in all, it was just to provide practical guidelines for policymakers and operators to strengthen the national energy security law. So further works could involve simulation-based testing of the proposed framework in Bhutanese hydropower plants. And number two, if we could also work on integrating AI-driven threat detection and blockchain for grid securities. These are some of the references I've used. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Netagani and Hendrik Tinde Doji, for sharing your research and highlighting the new digital transformation underway in Bhutan's hydropower sector, and highlighting the need to balance technological innovation with cybersecurity measures for sustainable hydropower operations to strengthen our energy security. With this, we have now come to the end of the session speakers in this session, and we will now have the question and answer session on the first theme under cybersecurity and responsible digital engagement. And as submitted then, it will be moderated by Pratima Pradhan, Deputy Chief ICT Officer, BT CERT GovTech Agency. With a core role as a cybersecurity incident handler, Pratima Pradhan brings hands-on experience in responding to complex threats affecting critical infrastructure. And her experience also extends to supporting the formulation of ICT and cybersecurity legislation and policy frameworks, development of critical information infrastructure, protection roadmap, and GovSoc strategy. She has led impactful initiatives such as the National Cyber Drill, Capture the Flag Challenge, and various technical training programs in cybersecurity advocacies. A strong advocate for operational collaboration, she volunteers with the Bhutan Network Operators Group, contributing to community-led ICT capacity building, and is also part of Women in STEM Bhutan. Please welcome Pratima Pradhan on stage for the Q&A session. And we request all the speakers in this session, Tashi Yangchen, Professor Alistair, and Professor Shrikant Nethagani, along with your friend Tile, to kindly come on the stage for the Q&A session.
Hello? Okay. Tasting. Hello, very good afternoon. Honorable Dashos, distinguished guests from abroad, academicians, industry professionals, policymakers, implementers, learners, and everyone in the audience. I am Pratima Pradhan, a cybersecurity professional and a mother from GovTech agency. And on behalf of the GovTech and on behalf of myself, I am very much thankful for the coordinator to inviting me and let me be part of this very important event. And I'm very happy to be moderator of this very first thematic area of ABRC 2025. And being a cybersecurity professional, I feel very proud of this thematic topic, which is cybersecurity and digital responsible digital engagement, which actually indicates that as we are embracing digital innovation at a speed of 10x, we are also ensuring that this transformation is guided by mindfulness, GNH principles, and also taking considerations of various aspects of risks and threats that is coming along with this journey. And to make this thematic area very enriching with these insights, we had a very fascinating set of presentation covering cybersecurity awareness in engineering college, mindfulness innovation in assistive technology, and public sector cybersecurity proposing different frameworks. Unfortunately, we missed one of the very interesting topic which I thought would be very interesting to discuss. However, we have the speakers, and before I open the floor for Q&A to the audience, I'll take this opportunity, being the moderator, to our only women speaker, Ms. Tashi, who is also a very good friend of mine. So we understand that social contract is unwritten agreement among individuals to respect certain norms and values. So when we take this into digital world, so what is the digital social contract or digital etiquettes, and how can we as responsible netizens practice it to promote a safer online community?
Well, thank you very much for the question, Ms. Pratima. Well, yes, there definitely is an unwritten digital social contract among the online users or internet users. So, so it's like that. I think it's a common sense. So if you expect someone to respect you online, I think you should also be someone giving respect to people who are online. And yes, we do not have a written contract for that, but it's understandable and everyone should know that. It's a common sense. And some of the way I think one can practice this digital social contract is by doing some very simple things, such as, yes, respecting people online and avoiding cyberbullying or hate speech online. And another way could be thinking very carefully before posting anything, or avoiding oversharing on social media platforms. And another one could be protecting your own data, practicing, good practices such as creating strong passwords for your accounts. And then another one could be, what could be another one? Let me think. What could be another one?
Yes, privacy. Maybe.
Oh, yes. And it can also mean that if you know something, you spread the awareness, just like we did through our project, ABNIC project. So we did not keep the knowledge to ourselves. We went around, we put our own effort in spreading the awareness. So I think these are some of the ways you can help people online. Save yourself and also keep them safe.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
It's
you.
a very excellent answer. And to just top up, what we usually say is, as you are offline, that same thing follows online as well. And in our agency, we call it basic cyber hygiene. With this now, I would like to open the floor with the question to any of our presenters here. We have more extra minutes, so please, we're expecting more questions from the audience.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone here. My question pertains to two speakers, one from the engineering hydropower and the second pertains to GNH. Very interestingly, in our context, I guess some of the research finding indicates about 12% of our population are poor monetarily or below poverty line. So that has been my understanding. I'm yet to validate it. And when I compare with some of the happiest people in some countries, such as Norway and Denmark, so obviously, I think the speaker is looking at me. The question to you is, what are some of the lessons that we could learn from those countries so that we can also be more happy? That is to you. And then, very interestingly, from Doji, the cybersecurity aspect on the hydropower, much of the references are drawn from, obviously, the Korea and Ukraine. The question here is it such data or the information are limited to these countries, or you have some reasons as to why it has been referenced, whereas was it the absence of such data from other countries? Thank you.
Could you please introduce yourself so that...
Sorry. My name is Ogin Soang. I work as the director of the Bhutan. It's quite a mouthful. Bhutan Qualification and Professional Certification Authority, and it has 5 councils. Engineering Professional Council, that includes ICT as well, then Teaching Professional Council, Health Council, Vocational Council, and Higher Education Council. Previously, it was separately 5 independent departments. Now, towards the transformation in doing more with less, we have 5 departments subsumed under one authority. Thank you.
Who would like to take first, maybe?
Thank you. This one's on? Yep. So thank you for the great question. It reminds me of Christmas in Copenhagen about 10 years ago, and there's about 12 people around a table, and we worked out that every second person paid the salary of the other person who worked for the government. So it really was an amazing thing to see as an Australian, because we complain about that sort of thing, but in Denmark it was celebrated. And I think it shows the social focus. And yeah, I think that may be changing in some of those countries, I feel, talking to people from Sweden particularly. There's lots of challenges, so it is difficult to keep it going. But I think the idea of helping each other and creating an inclusive society is where they bring that. And I'm thinking of linking this to the cyber security. Last week, before coming here, the big problem I had was a research associate who works with us. He lives in Sicily. He has cerebral palsy. He uses a power wheelchair. He cannot speak normally. He has 2 PhDs, one from Sicily and recently one from Rome. And he defended his PhD using his own app that can understand his voice. So he made an app to communicate his PhD topic. He received a call from ICT at Sydney University saying, you need to change your password. Your account needs updating, cybersecurity problem. You need to talk to us on the phone. But he can't speak. So I think it shows the issue where we don't have the technologies to allow some people to be included through cybersecurity, and we need some special things like the app that he developed to enable that to happen. And the community in Sicily and in Rome are behind him. He receives help, grants, support, and it does work. So these things do happen even in somewhere like Sicily, which you would associate, not quite with that activity, but they're very social as well.
Yeah, and then as you have shown in your presentation that there is a huge market for your assistive technologies, so it also indicates that the cyber attack surface is even more, and then they are susceptible to different kinds of cyber attacks.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's a super interesting question. Should I take some time to?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
So,
Yes, we were worried about the recall of the Airbus planes when flying here. One of the planes that we fly on is one of the ones that is affected by the solar radiation. And this is a problem in assistive devices and medical devices. So pacemakers, cochlear implants are all tested for that kind of problem. Airplanes it seemed that they forgot about airplanes. It seems to be a bit drastic. But when I talk to people with disability about power wheelchairs, exoskeletons, implants to help them move their muscles, or a Neuralink that Elon Musk is working on. We have an ex-student working there at Neuralink now. He has Parkinson's in his family, so he's very passionate about that. They worry about the technology not being reliable. So a simple device that you attach to a normal wheelchair that gives you powered mobility to help you go a bit further, what if you get out down the street and suddenly it stops working? You're disabled, so you are completely stranded, and that's a big issue and another cybersecurity issue. Yeah. We do need to solve that.
and to answer the second question, maybe you would, or who would like to answer?
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful question. Regarding to the data, we mainly focus on the Russia and Ukraine aspects because we feel that it is very relevant, especially what they're going through right now, and we can also relate. And also, it is sort of true that small incidents are not that reported or published because organizations have to save their face sometimes in the power markets. And yeah, I think there is a lack of proper data. Sometimes organizations do try to hide. If I give a personal experience, I won't name the organization, but I interned for an organization and they were rolling out some basic technologies of the type that I presented right now. and it was worth about 200 million Yultron, the entire project. And later on, after finishing my intern, a few months later, I called in my seniors at that organization to ask how's the project going, and they said that hackers have bypassed the firewall and they froze the system, so they sort of did denial of service DOS attack. So they froze the system and they had to call their supplier again and had to reinstall, and the project got delayed by 2 years. But currently the project is going on well, it is already implemented. So yeah, I think organizations do try to hide these kinds of embarrassments. Thank you.
Just to top up on what he has actually answered, also to top up Sir's question, I was also looking at, have you actually looked at kind of a cyber threat landscape, specifically target to Bhutan's power sector? Though
the organization I worked in, it's one of Bhutan's reputed organizations in the power sector, but I won't name.
it's fine now, that is just only anyways, some more questions from the audience. There's one. Okay, one and two, okay. And three.
Hello, this is Mamta. I have not a question, I have a suggestion for Professor Alistair. He is going to collaborate with Bhutan and then produce a policy document for specially abled people in Bhutan, right? I just have a suggestion that there is a specially abled cohort group which is being managed by, it's called FinSu. I don't know whether you heard about FinSu. It is cohort group of specially abled children where mothers have come together and they have brought in, it is an NGO, and if you can include those cohort also, it will be beneficial for Bhutan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the next question from, yeah, please introduce and then you.
Thank you very much. My name is Professor David Wong. I'm here doing some research on ecotourism with my student Kamadaji. Thank you for all the presenters in this session. I think Alistair's work seems to be a very popular one, and I do have a question for Alistair as well. I think you're one of the first research models that looks outside of, efficiency of assistive technologies and so forth. And I commend you very highly for that, which includes the GNH principles. I'm using the same approach in our research in ecotourism, where we not just look at the benefits to the country, but also benefits to the tourists themselves. My question to you, therefore, is you mentioned that there are several benefits that we can measure assistive technology from the patient's point of view. For example, the patient's well-being and the patient's spirituality. I wonder how you might operationalize these constructs of well-being and spirituality, keeping in mind that perhaps potentially certain dimensions of well-being may differ from different cultures. As a very quick example, what I mean by that is that in the Western context, a wheelchair may provide positive well-being for the patient in terms of, hey, I can move again, I'm independent. But from some other cultures, a wheelchair may potentially create embarrassment and therefore reduce well-being for that particular patient. So I'm very interested to hear how you would operationalize and measure these GNH constructs. Thank you.
That's a really very key question. and we're very aware of stigma around assistive technology because it can easily label the person who may not seem to be differently abled when you know, for example, I have autism, but it's a hidden disability. But I could wear a sunflower badge and that could label me. And this is actually the success of one of Australia's biggest assistive technology companies, Cochlear. It used to be that the cochlear implant required a device as big as this badge that you wore around your neck, but it would show that you needed assistive technology to hear. And their innovation was to put it behind the ear. So like the hearing aids now that are hidden behind the ear. And that's very popular because people don't want to be in the West, in the East, but maybe more we understand in Eastern cultures that there is higher stigma. So our approach to operationalize it is to co-design with different cultures and communities. And also to try and raise the idea that different abilities are normal, but that is something that takes a long time to change. And,
Okay, we'll take just one last question from Ms. Can you please introduce and make it concise?
My name is Chimidema. I'm currently serving as a lecturer at Galpashin College of Information Technology. My question is to Madam Tashi Yangchen. So in your research, the participants were from the 3 technical colleges, and the finding from the pre-workshop survey indicated that 34.6% student indicated that they have some kind of knowledge in cybersecurity. And it was quite good to know that you actually took your research further and conducted a workshop with the eastern part of Bhutan. So I just wanted to know what was their level of cybersecurity knowledge? Because even my technical students, they are having some difficulty in understanding the concept of cybersecurity. And what were some of the challenges you faced when you were conducting workshop with the participants from eastern part of Bhutan? And do you have any plan to bring this in the western part of Bhutan? And my next question is to the professor. You talked about inclusive design, human-centered design and assistive technology. So currently, from my assessment, I think we have been focusing more on inclusive curriculum, inclusive academic activities, but then I've not really seen that being extended to inclusive design and infrastructure. So this is where we are lacking. So from your perspective, what will inclusive designed university will look like? Thank you.
So Tashi, if you can quickly answer and then followed by
All right.
Alistair.
Thank you very much for the question. So actually I forgot to mention during my presentation that our participants for the APNIC project were actually common people. So we had high schoolers, yes, and we also had farmers and people who were not educated or literate. They were illiterate. And we also had monks as our participants. So if you can see that before the workshop, if university-going students had 34% of university-going students had some knowledge about cybersecurity, then you can just make a guess about the level of awareness that will be there in the common people. So, of course, we could not take surveys like we did for the students, for the common people, because firstly, yes, they were not literate. Many of them were not literate. Maximum of them were illiterate. So we could not take any surveys like that. But then I think it's obvious that they will definitely have very low awareness when, compared to, first-year students. So, yeah, I think that's the answer. And I also forgot to answer the next part of the question. So I think the question was if we had any plans to expand our cybersecurity outreach to western part of the country. So we're actually on a journey we are trying to get funding. So we would love to do it, but we are short of funds. So we're actually applying again to APNIC for their funding, and then if we secure, then we definitely plan on expanding our outreach. Yes, thank you very much for the question.
For inclusive design, a really good example is Woven City, Toyota Woven City in Japan. Toyota is a mobility company, and they see the future of mobility, not cars, but personal mobility. So it can be just like the airports where there's ramps, right? Everybody has big, heavy bags. You need to get the bag up the ramp so you don't have steps. And that also includes people in wheelchairs.
Okay, as we have crossed our time limit, I would like to summarize the Q&A session with just reflecting that Tashir spoke about cybersecurity awareness and how it's going to really impact well if it included in colleges. And also she has got follow-up projects which is ongoing, and future maybe there are some more. Alistair's integration of GNH in assistive technology, which is very much insightful, and I would like to take it as a key takeaway. And Lendrup and Shrikant, two of you have talked about hydropower sector vulnerabilities that lies within our country, and they have also proposed a physical cyber framework for enhancing cybersecurity, and I'm really hopeful that that will be implementable in our hydropower sector. And I would like to advise two of you to actually take it forward to our electricity authority. And to summarize all of your talk, and the key takeaway which I was mentioning is, what if we actually integrate our GNH principles in designing the technology, implementing and decommissioning. Recently we just had it's not too immature to talk about the AI governance, AI guidelines, but looking at how GNH can be attributed to assistive technology, how it is also coming up with AI technologies, and cybersecurity, because ethics, morals are more important. I think we can propose that our country's forefathers, our great fourth, he had a very far-sighted vision of GNH, measuring our country's progress with the gross national happiness apart from gross domestic product. So I think now we are pioneering of how we can integrate the GNH into all the technological developments. So with this, I would like to thank everyone, and I conclude, it's a conclusion of our first thematic area, and now I think we are open for lunch. Over to our coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you to Pratima Pradhan and our session speakers, Tashiyanchin, Professor Alistair, Professor Nethagani, and Lendrup Tineduji, for the very engaging and insightful session, and to the audience for the very engaging questions as well. We've taken some extra time from our lunch. And now with this, we're now finally in the lunch and networking session, which will be this wonderful opportunity to strengthen networks and build connections as we move around. And we request everyone to be back in the same hall by 1:40 p.m. for the next thematic session on climate change and environmental dynamics in Bhutan and the Himalayas, which will be emceed by Tenzin Choden Lekpil. And during the lunch, please enjoy the cultural performances from our students from the two colleges of education, Paro College of Education and Samsi College of Education. And with this, we thank you all once again and request everyone to proceed to the lunch, which is served outside this conference hall. Thank you, La.